the question is, how did you enjoy the passport course working with Ambassador Nectaria? And what do you believe, and what did you take away from that as far as what is the greatest value? And then I'd love to talk to you also about the homeschooling element, because you're the first ones who actually introduced my course as being applicable for the homeschooling. So that's a big one. So those are 3 questions. So I will just be quiet and let you guys share.
Okay. Can you let me talk first? Okay, so what was the greatest, I think, the greatest aspect of going through the process of getting our passports changed and becoming ambassadors for Christ was just the spiritual aspect of knowing that not only publicly and privately, we are now both declaring that we're our true kingdom, which is in heaven. And it has given me a greater sense of being connected to the heavenly realm. And it also gives me a greater sense of accountability now to my family and myself and to God, to really represent Him in everything that we do. That I didn't have before until we went through the process, which the class was really fun and entertaining, and it was great to be able to include the children in it and to learn parts of history that we had always been curious about, but had never really had the type of personal, real world experience that Sister had with it, and was able to show us not only her how she had educated herself on it, but her lived experience of it and the successes that she had had, and the experiences she had had in her encounter, and all the encounters she had with helping others go through that process and winning legal battles, her own legal battles, and changes that she had made. So I really appreciated having her hand hold through it, because otherwise I would have had no clue how to even go about it, or even that it was even an option for us. So it was very liberating.
Yeah, I think for me the greatest aspect of the course was just the content, being the education of our history and the real history. It connected a lot of dots. I think we study a lot, we listen to a lot, we always are looking for more information and new information. And Sister Carrie, Ambassador Nectaria, was able to connect those dots together in a logical way that really made sense, and it was eye-opening. And it gave me a clear foundation to step out and do this with the State Department, because the State Department's a real deal. You don't joke around, you don't pretend, it's not a game. And if I was going to lead my whole family through that process, I needed to know I was on a sure foundation. And Ambassador Carrie really showed that to me because of her knowledge of the history and why, what was written in the court documents, in the government documents. It's all there. It's all in the codes. So we're playing nicely. That was the other thing, is I want to play nicely. I'm not here to pick enemies or pick fights with people. I want to do it right, and I don't want to have to carry a 3-ring binder around me just to defend my position. I want to do it in a way that's done well and done correctly. And the way she taught it and went through the course gave me a ton of confidence to do that. And it was also done in such a professional manner that we could have all 7 of our children there listening and participating, because I knew that the content would be safe for them to listen to, but I also knew it would be eye-opening and educational and something that they could then build on down the road. But as we learned studying U.S. history right at that time, so it was okay. We are open to other perspectives. Let's listen to this perspective of U.S. history. So, part of homeschooling is we want to give our children a wide range of viewpoints based on the truth of Scripture and of our reality. We're raising up, Stachofskys. We're raising up children that are going to believe and see the world through a particular worldview, but we're not afraid to open up their eyes to other viewpoints in the context of all that. And this was a great way to do that.
Yeah, especially with, we have always really purposed, and we have purpose from the moment we got married, that we were going to build a home that was based on the foundations of Christ. And so this was just another step, like a pretty big step to take, to not only do it for ourselves, but to show our children that we were serious about that. And we were willing, not only are we're so serious, we're willing to sign an affidavit that's notarized under the penalty of perjury. This is what I swear to. This is what I vow to. I don't make any other vows other than Christ my King. And I'm going to say that to people who could punish me for it if they wanted to, and come as it may. And that was, I'm not going to get around, that was a little scary. And we did have some scary moments, some fluttering of fear. It was not met with cheerfulness, we'll just say, in the office, but
the passport
office, sister was on the phone the whole time with us. There were a couple times Dan had to step out, and they prayed hard, and we got through the experience despite some bumps in the road with those passports in hand. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without her guidance and her support. And so,
well, yeah, a couple of things. We would, if the documentation wasn't done perfectly, it would have been stopped. But because the paperwork was done perfectly, we were up against a spiritual battle, and that we could win through prayer and claiming our status, and because we were identifying ourselves as ambassadors of heaven, they couldn't stop it. And ultimately we did win. We got through the process. But if we hadn't been able to go through this course, if it was something we were just doing on our own, or if we had been working with someone who didn't have a personal experience with it, but had just developed a methodology or some idea of how to do this on their own, but hadn't been through the fire before, I don't know that we would have done it as well, or if the paperwork would have been done right. And that would have come back on us.
And one of the elements that you were running into as far as a snag, which is normal in terms of the experience from the other side, from the Department of State, is that one of your children didn't have a birth certificate.
Correct. He did not have a birth certificate.
Yeah, our youngest, he was still a young child, and we just had decided, based on what we've been learning about birth certificates and about that there's another way, that there are other ways. We didn't know exactly what the other ways were at the time he was born, but we knew if we could avoid the birth certificate process, that would be the best thing, at least for our perspective where we were at the time. And we just trusted God that the right way would present itself. We would find it, but we didn't know what it was. But that did create a snag. Even in the State Department's documentation, they say you can use a Bible to prove that birth. And you can use a midwife's statement to prove birth. And those things that we did, they were rejecting. And we had to work through that with them and educate them on that process. But we did, and there's still a little bit of work left to do to get them a full-fledged. The passports we end up getting a 1-year temporary passport, and now we're going to go back and get a long-term passport. It's a legitimate passport. It's a full passport. We can go in and out of the States, but they just gave us a temporary, which was not lawful. It wasn't legal for them to do that. So we'll be able to go back and get that corrected. And in the end, that's going to work out in our best anyway, because all things work together for good. But it was definitely a trial. And I think it was a trial not just for us and our growth and really a witness to our children, a testimony to them to see that. But I believe it's going to be used by other families as well to hopefully avoid that maybe. Just knowing you have to cover yourself in prayer. Mm-hmm. You have to put on the full armor of God. And you do that every day. And sometimes we just forget how important it is, but it is important.
And that was only for Josiah. All the others were normal passports.
All the others went smoothly through.
Yep.
And it was such, and now having been through it, it grew my other children's face so tremendously to see that happen with their little baby brother.
Yeah.
They had to intercede for prayer for him too, and we all got through it together, and it was really a growing time for our family.
And you still like me.
So
we win all the way around.
We're still friends.
Yes, we're still friends.
Yeah. No, we are. We've recommended you to several of our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some of them are living overseas now.
That's right.
And they did it right.
Yeah.
So, what else? I just really appreciate being able to do this from a biblical perspective. I know not everyone is going to have that perspective, but for us, that's really important, and it brought a whole level of depth and meaning to this process that other approaches don't even go near. And so, if you are looking for something that can claim your identity in Christ as why you want to break free from the other system, look no further. This is the place to go.
And we have seen now, it's been a little less than a year since we made that declaration. We have seen doors open that were not opening before. We have seen and felt things that typically would have had obstacles and roadblocks and just trouble. Those things have lessened greatly, and I am convinced it's because of the spiritual connection between what we have done. I feel like we have more spiritual protection somehow. I don't quite understand it all, but I feel different.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. I feel like the purpose is a lot more. The purpose is just so much more in front of me. It's like we always say, grow up. Yeah, we're disciples of Christ. It's kind of a spiritual thing, and it is. But this makes it real. To be able to claim that on the State Department, my occupation is ambassador of heaven, and my residency is in heaven. That's a big deal. Like, that's legal documentation. And, that makes me stand a little taller.
Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure working with you and an honor to be able to have your kids also enjoy the class materials too. That just goes to show that the material is for everyone. It's for them at their age ranges, and they all were participating, asking questions, fully engaged, which was such a delight for me.
They still ask questions, and it sparked an interest in current events as well.
Yeah.
Because history is still unfolding, and they are not satisfied with conventional answers anymore.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's like from the eyes of a spiritual perspective on current events too, which is so neat. It's not just what's happening in the physical realm, but what's happening behind that. Yeah. What's the spiritual component? How do we tap that in?
And then what can we, as a family of ambassadors, how can we have an impact on it?
Yeah, exactly.
The ideas they come up with have definitely been inspired by what they learned from you.
So we thank you for being a part of the journey and just being available to put the hard work in to prepare this. And we are grateful to have met you and continue to work with you.